Hello class, hello to all. I welcome you all to this parasitology class today. Today in this class, I would be taking up the topic of hydatid disease and the hydatid cyst, which is a manifestation of hydatid disease only. So these are studied together. So what is hydatid disease? Hydatid disease is a zoonosis caused by the larval stage of Echinococcus granulosus. It is also known as echinococcus, and hydatid cyst is a manifestation seen in this disease. Now let's see how this disease is caused due to this Echinococcus granulosus. This Echinococcus granulosus belongs to the family of Ctenidae, the genus Echinococcus. Its synonym name is Taenia echinococcus, and the common names are the tapeworm or the hydatid worm. The picture can be seen in this slide. Okay, you can see the structure. Now a little detail about its structure. It is a small tapeworm, 3 to 6 millimeter in length, and comprises of three parts: scolex, the neck, and the strobila. The scolex is basically the head. It is the immature part bearing four suckers and a protrusible rostrum with two circular rows of hooks. This you can see in this picture. Okay, the hooklets, the sucker, the scolex. Okay, then second part is the neck, which is mature part, and it is short and thick. The third part is the strobila, which has three segments usually, but occasionally it can have four segments also. This is the gravid part and the biggest segment also, because its length is 2 to 3 millimeter and the breadth is 0.6 millimeters. Now the life cycle, how the hydatid disease develops or the hydatid cyst develops. So for this, we need to understand the life cycle of Echinococcus granulosus. The life cycle of Echinococcus granulosus runs in two hosts, the definitive host and the intermediate host. Dog is the optimum definitive host and sheep is the optimum intermediate host. Others are pig, cattle, horse, goat, and also man is the intermediate host. The larval stage is passed in these animals, and the adult stage is found in the small intestine of the definitive host. Man harbors a larval form. The adult is found in the definitive host small intestine, like dog and other canine animals. The adult worm lives in the small intestine of the definitive host dog, and when the dog excretes, the eggs are discharged in the feces. Now these eggs are swallowed by intermediate hosts, which are cattle, sheep, and other domestic animals while they are grazing in the field. Man can also come in contact with these by various means, becoming the intermediate host. Now how this happens? It can occur through direct contact, handling and fondling with the infected dogs, then by allowing the dogs to feed from the same dish, taking uncooked vegetables contaminated with infected canine feces, and infection is acquired in childhood, but the manifestation occurs, it does not become manifest before adult life. Infection through contaminated water is uncommon because the eggs being heavier, they settle at the bottom. Okay, so we see that the infecting agents are the eggs which are excreted in the dog's feces. The portal of entry is the alimentary canal, which I'll just tell you. And the site of localization are the viscera, the liver, the lungs, most commonly liver and lungs, and other organs are also affected. So when man comes in contact with the infected dogs due to intimate handling, particularly children, because children are more playful with the dogs actually. So when they come in contact, it enters the alimentary canal, and the hexacanth embryos are hatched in the duodenum. Then the embryos bore their way through the intestinal wall and enter the radicals of the portal vein of the liver. Okay, this occurs 8 hours after ingestion. You can see in the picture also, little in brief, the hydrated cyst cycle is given in the intermediate host in this picture. Now the embryos are arrested in the sinusoidal capillaries of the liver. Liver acts as the first filter. It means it acts as the first line of defense. Then some embryos pass through the hepatic capillaries and enter the pulmonary circulation and filter out in the lungs. Lungs acts as the second line of defense, the second filter. But few embryos pass the pulmonary capillaries also and enter the general bloodstream and lodge in various organs. In this picture, you can see that if it lodges in various organs, we can see them in heart, spleen, okay, brain, and bones. But the major sites are the liver and lungs only. Now, all organs of the domestic animal are invaded, but chiefly liver, in which right lobe is mostly involved, and the lungs. These two organs are mostly affected. Now, wherever this embryo settles, it forms the hydatid cyst. Hydatid cyst is basically young larva being transformed into hollow bladder. The young larva transforms into a hollow bladder, which we call as the hydatid cyst. From the inner side of the cyst, blood capsules with a number of scoliosis are developed. Okay, from inside the cyst, scoliosis are developed. The hydatid cyst developing from a single egg oncosphere may contain thousands of scoliosis. Fully developed scolex is the end product. Its presence inside the cyst signifies a complete biological development. So the cycle has to continue, right? It had started from the embryo and now there is complete biological development in the form of scolex inside the cyst. Now when fertile hydatids are ingested by the dog while feeding on the carcasses of infected animals, they grow into adult worms in 6 to 7 weeks in the intestine. Thus the cycle is completed. As the dogs do not have any access to the hydatid cyst developed in the viscera of man, life cycle of the parasite comes to a dead end and a natural cycle is maintained by the dog and the sheep. Now this is the structure, the gross structure. These resemble a bunch of grapes. The vesicles resemble a bunch of grapes. These are found in liver and lungs mostly, and other organs are muscle, spleen, kidney, heart, bones, brain, etc. Hydatid cysts are slow growing, like they grow 2 to 3 centimeter only per year. This is in brief about the structure. It has 3 layers. The outer pericyst layer composed of modified host cells that form a dense fibrous protective zone. The middle laminated membrane, which is acellular and allows the passage of nutrients, and the inner germinal layer. You can see the structure in both these pictures. Composition and character of the hydatid fluid. The fluid inside the hydatid cyst is clear, colorless, or maybe pale yellow in color, having a low specific gravity of 1.005 to 1.010. It is slightly acidic in reaction, having a pH of 6.7. It contains sodium chloride, sodium phosphate, sodium sulfates, and sodium and calcium salts of succinic acid, which is a Fehling reducing substance. This fluid is antigenic, being used for immunological tests. It's highly toxic when absorbed, gives rise to anaphylactic symptoms also. And hydrated sand is also there, a granular deposit found to settle at the bottom. This consists of liberated blood capsules, free scoliosis, and loose hooklets. Now, this is in brief about the morphology of hydatid cyst from Robbins' pathology book. If you are curious enough, you can just go through this also, okay, in brief. Then clinical features. In majority of the cases, the disease is latent, it's symptomless for many years, and its presence is directed only at autopsy or by pressure effects on the surrounding tissues or when the cyst ruptures or suppurates. The clinical features depend on the site, the size, the stage of development, whether the cyst is alive or dead, or whether the cyst is infected or not. Pain in right upper quadrant or epigastrium is the most common symptom found, and hepatomegaly and palpable mass are the most common signs. So the disease is asymptomatic in 75% cases, abdominal pain is found in 20% cases, dyspepsia in 13% cases, fever and chills in 8% cases, and jaundice in 6% cases. If the cyst is situated superficially, you can see a visible swelling. The pressure symptoms vary according to the size of the cyst. Okay, if the cyst ruptures, it is associated with anaphylactic symptoms and formation of localized or generalized secondary echinococcus. In the lab, for detection, Cassoni's reaction, Cassoni's test is done, which in which it is detected by Cassoni's reaction. Intradermal injection of 0.2 ml of a fresh, sterile, hydrated fluid sterilized by Sidd's filter produces within half an hour in all positive cases a large wheal 5 cm in diameter with multiple pseudopodia, and this fades in an hour also. You can see the Cassoni's test and the reaction caused in this picture. You can see the pseudopodia also, multiple pseudopodia. This is the typical reaction found. If you do the blood examination, general eosinophilia is found 20 to 25%. Okay, the eosinophilia is up to 20 to 25%. Radiological examinations are helpful in the diagnosis of hydatid cyst of lungs and the liver. Treatment is symptomatic in homeopathy, and prophylaxis is basically concerned with the hygiene by prevention of infection of dogs and the deworming of dogs in endemic areas, by personal prophylaxis like cleaning of hands before eating, and lab workers should guard against pollution of fingers while examining the dog's faces. So that's all in today's class. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience and paying attention. Thank you. Thanks a lot.